It's hard to contain your excitement when you get something you've really wanted. Like the gold standard in automotive protection, WeatherTech floor liners. With deep sculpted channels and laser measured for total protection in the front, back, and even up the sides.
Dad, you're going viral.
What? WeatherTech me.
So don't be shy, enjoy. Order your premium American-made products at WeatherTech.com.
For two of our class titles, this is a last gasp before the championship slips away. But for our 992 Masters class, it's a neck-and-neck race that may come down to the wire. Let's find out what the finale will look like as we get ready to watch the penultimate race of the Porsche Sprint Challenge North America GT3 Cup. We're holding Race 1 here at Sonoma Raceway. I'm Joe Peak along with Ryan Marine. This is what we're here for, Ryan. We want to get to the racing, and what a track to hold it at.
Oh, fantastic venue, that's for sure, and a real challenge for teams and drivers alike. 2.5 miles, 12 turns, and it packs a ton into that relatively short layout here at Sonoma Raceway. Massive elevation change, tight technical portions of this racetrack, a few places where you can stretch your legs, a few passing opportunities as well. But it is a faster track than when many of these competitors were here last because of a repave that was done over the off-season that's just added to the level of commitment required to go fast around this place, and it should make for a wonderful venue for our finale here in 2024.
Well, unfortunately, for those hoping for a tight fight, some of our championships, as mentioned, are also going to go fast like the cars, and one of those is the 992 Pro-Ams. As you can see, there's a 30-point difference between Thomas and Bocuse as Paul took the bonus for pole, but that means that 90 points difference, rather, but that means that Paul needs 31 points to outscore Thomas by 31 points, or the championship is over at the end of this race. Mathematically, Jared cannot be caught. We also have the 992 Masters Championship as well, Ryan.
Yeah, that's right. That's another thing to keep an eye on. And this has been just a tremendous fight throughout the course of the season. And look how close it is there between the top two. Scott Blend, Mark Bowden separated there by just 15 points. Rob Walker mathematically still in the hunt, but it would really take a catastrophic weekend. In fact, really, Blend and Bowden would have to not take the start here for Rob to continue to be in the hunt for a championship after today. But that said, it's shaping up to be a tremendous duel between the top two in the points in Masters throughout the course of this weekend.
Now, 991 is relatively close, at least from what it looks like in points, as there's 31 difference between Meissner and Melito. But this is one of the smaller classes, unfortunately. So as soon as this race starts, Melito is probably going to slip out of any realistic shot. It won't be mathematically over, but it will be unlikely to be able to run down Niels Meissner from here. As for today's starting grid, why don't we head over and talk you through how they kick off. Paul Bocuse on the pole with Aaron Janson starting to his outside for your front row. Then in row number 2, Ashley Freiberg will start P3 with Caden Kelly starting in the 4th position. That takes us back to row 3 where Jared Thomas didn't really like the cold track conditions. He said it should be better now that it's warmed up, and he'll start next to Conrad Geis starting in 6th. As we go back to row number 4, our pole sitter for the Masters, Scott Blend, is flanked by Rob Walker, who will start in the 8th position. And then when we jump down into row number 5, Joel Johnson will start in 9th, and Mark Bowden, our other championship protagonist, rounds out your top 10, Ryan.
To the 6th row of the grid, Therese Lalou racing on home soil, not happy with her qualifying effort, but she'll start there in the 6th row next to John Gilliland. That is row 6, row number 7 on the grid. Shane Leathers now driving for Fall Line Motorsports this weekend after driving for his own team most of the year. Frank Vitiello set to start alongside for JDX. In the 8th row, Mike Mim is set to roll off in the 15th spot, and on the pole for the 991 class, it is Tony Melito starting there in 16th.
Takes us to Jody Miller starting at 17th, with 18th going to Galante, and then we'll go through the rest of them here as it looks like they're ready to go racing. And the cars are double file. Here's looking forward to the first race of the weekend as the GT3 Cup Series kicks us off, and coming around the final corner, you can tell they are eager to go. But this is good formation here at the start of the race. Kind of curious what it's going to look like into turn 2, as that is a notorious spot for incidents at the starts of races. It's so tricky to try and break into there. Paul Bocuse takes the green flag, and he gets a pretty good start. One driver jumping out of line as they swing into turn 1. Now what is it going to look like as they come up into the braking to the blind crest of turn 2? Paul solidly into the lead. Big look from Jared trying to take third away, but he can't quite get there.
And this might be the best chance you've got to make up some big ground if you didn't have qualifying go your way. Difficult place to go side by side. A couple of cars try and get further back in the pack, but a great start from the pole sitter, Paul Bocuse, who's looking for his first win in this 992 machinery, the Cayman champion from a year ago. Oh, we got cars off at the top of the hill.
Multiple cars, one of them turned around completely as he gets nudged back facing forward there. Trying to make out who some of those are. Thankfully, it looks like all cars are able to continue under their own power, so won't have to have a full course caution, but that certainly puts many of them on the back foot.
Oh, that surface is going to be so dusty as well, with so many of those cars going off track and bringing dust and debris back onto the surface. Drivers will need to be aware of that as they come around at the end of lap number 1. This is into the chicane section here for the first time, and Paul Bocuse leads the way. What a great start for the young man to take the pole position and then to solidify that with a great start. Johnson now on the back foot a little bit as he plays some defense there. The fight is really second, third, and fourth behind the pole sitter, Bocuse.
Yeah, and that looks to be Jared Thomas and Ashley Freiberg fighting for that third position. That's become quite the rivalry this season. And the drivers are likely going to carry that on in this race and on into the next one. Now we're joined by a wonderful racer in his own right. Eric Fogaris is up with us in the booth. Welcome, Eric. And I know you're a coach with a driver or two out here. How are you seeing things so far this weekend?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I'm really glad to be back at Sonoma. We raced here earlier this year in SRO competition, and really exciting to close out this Porsche Sprint Challenge season. It's such a fantastic track. As you can see, it's providing really good racing. Hopefully clean races this weekend, and that's what we're working on.
Well, we come down through turn 5 now with Paul still up at the top, being chased by Janson, putting at least a few car lengths between himself and Ashley Freiberg. This is, of course, in the Pro-Am. It's Scott Glenn who still leads down in the Masters a little farther, Ryan, but it seems like Janson is trying to keep Paul honest.
Yeah, definitely. Paul got a great getaway there at the drop of the green, but now Janson has tracked him back down. That's one thing. Trying to make the pass around here is an entirely different challenge, especially for someone like Janson, who does not have a lot of experience in one of these Porsche Cup cars. Bocuse, it's his first year driving these cars, but Janson only made his debut at Road America last month. So he's been drinking from the fire hose, learning the track, learning the car, doing a really nice job, though only missed pole by a fraction of a second. It was really close between these two.
It really was, and that kind of bears itself out with the close racing we're seeing early on. For those unfamiliar, it is going to be 35 minutes plus 1 lap for this race, and then also for race 2 tomorrow. They'll complete yet another lap here. A big talking point, Eric, has been the new track surface. What's the big things these drivers need to watch out for with the repave?
Yeah, track resurface over the wintertime, and it's been really good for grip this year. It's been really good for racing as well. Before the repave, we saw huge tire deg, and the big topic was always trying to maintain your grip and control your wheel spin and how hard do you push the tires and overheat them. Not really the case anymore. We can really push the car for really the whole practice qualifying race stint more so than we've seen in the past, as we're seeing Johnson really try to get by Bocuse.
Yeah, he's laying it on Paul now, just looking like he is unrelenting on this one. Down into the hairpin. Actually takes a tiny little bit of a look to the inside, but isn't quite there. This is a unique form of the hairpin as well, Ryan, because it's so wide down there now.
There's so many different layouts for this track, and a number of drivers have lamented to me over the course of the weekend that this particular layout is not available for them on their simulation software of choice, so that hurts them if they've not been here before, trying to get some extra laps in on the sim before they turn up. But this is a fascinating battle here at the front, and a big moment, as we've talked about, for Bocuse, who's been the picture of consistency this season, just hasn't had that breakthrough win. We thought maybe when he locked down the pole position, this could be the weekend, given how difficult it is to pass. But a big moment for him as he keeps a driver who's pretty highly rated in Aaron Johnson behind him here, at least so far. And then you look at the experience of Freiberg and Thomas as well. This could be a big moment in the young career, the budding career of Paul Bocuse.
Yeah, a big thing as a driver right now for Paul is that he just needs to maintain a consistency. He knows what's happening in the mirror. He knows what's going on from the timing stand, what his team is telling him. I'm sure that he's praying for no cautions. And, the track has a good mix of big brake zones, high-speed areas where in a 992 Cup car you can get a little bit of aero wash as we're coming in.
While we would have to see Blend be able to basically come away with maximum points. So it is possible, but it's a lot less likely for something like that to happen. And things are starting to separate at the front, as the pictures we're getting here of our top two are starting to see Freiberg and Thomas disappear a little bit out of frame.
Yeah, good battle for our Masters category. Going to be a battle to look for.
Yeah, haven't seen as much of them on screen, but you're right. You can see last time across the line there was about 0.6 of a second between the two of them. So it looks like that's remaining pretty darn tight. Paul is going to be fierce today, no doubt, while Johnson would like to take the win away from him. As we keep mentioning, Paul's still looking for the first win this season. Honestly, his first win in the Cup cars as he came up from the Caymans last season. So being able to kind of tick that box will probably be a big one for him, as Conrad Geiss, running in 5th behind those top 4, is doing what he needs to do to try and hold off Therese Lalou, who told me her goal at the end of the season is to try and take her spot in the points back from him by the end of this and move herself back into 4th.
And an update on the Bowden situation. Yes, he was involved. Incident responsibility, in fact. Drive-through penalty was handed down. That penalty has subsequently been served, but that has Mark Bowden very much on the back foot. Great news for Scott Blinn. This car right here, the bright yellow machine that leads the way in class and runs a very strong 6th overall.
Yeah, that is Caden Kelly in behind him, so that is for position. There you can see the distance between the two cars fighting for P1 in the Masters. If it really comes down to it, though, Eric, I guess with Caden not being in that championship fight, Scott doesn't necessarily have to worry if Caden gets by.
Yeah, you're right. I think this deep into the season, Caden should be likely aware of what's going on with the championship scenario, but ultimately it's not really his responsibility. He's out here to try to win. So Scott, I think, needs to handle this appropriately, and I think he will.
I saw a car parked up there. It looks like just on the drag strip out of turn 6. It's out of harm's way. I wonder if that was something that happened on the first lap. Maybe the damage was a little too great to try and drive it back to pit lane. We'll see what sort of information we can get on which car that is that may be out of this one. I think it could be Joel Johnson from what I'm seeing, because it is a red car out there. Glenn coming down into the braking of the chicane, but starting to feel a little bit of that pressure as Caden's getting close to the bumper.
Well, here's why this matters for Blend. I mean, he can effectively wrap this up. Not quite, but get really close as far as the championship goes as they run. Now, Bowden could certainly make up some ground, but right now he's 10th in class. That pays 20 points. A win would be 60 points, so that's a net of 40 points with a lead already of 14. So it becomes a 54-point lead as they run for Scott Blend with only 60 points on the table tomorrow. That's why this position does matter for Scott, and he knows that that gives him a cushion. If something like what happened to Mark happens to him tomorrow, you go in with the 54-point lead, you feel pretty confident about it. But as that number comes down, all of a sudden you could find yourself scrambling, and that's what he would like to avoid.
Lots to play for. The coach in me right now is wanting to get on the radio and tell Scott Blend to just focus forward. I was going to pay him a compliment coming up to turn 1, and then he missed turn 2 apex by a dump truck. So I know he's feeling the pressure based on what we're seeing so far in this lap. He just needs to get those eyes through the windscreen and just focus on what he knows best.
I believe he's got Andrew Davis on the radio with him. Andrew's worked with him some this year at least, but in a coaching capacity, and that's a good guy with a lot of experience to help you through situations like this. Andrew's been here a time or two, and Scott's still learning his trade, but doing a really good job keeping a rapid driver in Caden Kelly firmly behind him.
Yeah, and Kelly's definitely looking. We're seeing that nose start to kind of peek inside at some of the apexes, just can't quite get the overlap and not going to have it down into the chicane. Some drivers saying that's probably going to be the best spot to try and overtake. Behind them, you're seeing little flashes of Lalu trying to get by Rob Walker. Now, while that is not for class position, Therese needs to try and catch up to Conrad Geis, who is becoming farther and farther up the road as they're separated by these 3 Masters drivers.
Eric, you know all about this in your day job racing in GT4 America, where you're constantly mixing it up with cars in the same GT4 classification, but maybe in different classes based on experience. Same thing here for Therese, trying to get through the Masters class field here. It's a difficult balance to strike when you know this really doesn't matter for your class or for your championship, but it's still a pass that she needs to make to get to cars that do matter.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes it's going to require patience. Sometimes it's going to require a little bit more aggression. And it's all about picking your battles. But, Therese has been doing a really great job this whole year, learning a lot. She's with a really great team, as well as getting a lot of really great direction from her coaches. So, yeah, I think it's all a part of the process, but that certainly is what makes Porsche Sprint Challenge North America so exciting, because you do have so many different people from different walks of life, different experiences in these race cars, and a lot of them, some of them are surprising, right? You look at, again, our Masters category and being up well into the top 10, our 3-way battle, and then you've got the 5 cars in front of them. Younger drivers who are really looking to make a name within their own right and within the Porsche community.
If I could, the other category we have in the mix is the 991 class, which is the older generation car. Different performance specs there, and yet we do sometimes see Meissner, Melito, and company running top 10. They're on the fringe of it right now in 11th and 12th, and that's a story I meant to clean up earlier, Joe. If I'm not mistaken, it was Melito on pole, but Meissner ended up in the class lead after lap 1 and actually had a pretty big gap back to Melito, but Tony's closed that back in, and they now run nose to tail on the racetrack. Only a couple of seconds between the two of them fighting for the championship as well as the class win.
Yeah, and the only unfortunate thing is because we have so few cars. In fact, Thomas Herb way behind them, the last one, and in third, that as we had a car off in front of us, off screen, down in the chicane. They're going to be able to continue on, but they were well off the racetrack. We'll try and figure out who exactly that was.
I think it was Dan Ammon who spun that car.
Yeah, I think you may be right on that one. As we hop on board with Niels Meissner, our leader in the 991s. But yeah, even if Tony is able to pass Niels, now that this race has begun, I mean, the worst that Niels can do is third place points. So while it is a 31-point difference, and that is doable, I think because of the number of cars we have, it's unfortunately kind of written off mostly from here.
Really, Niels would have to have had a disastrous day today and not be able to start tomorrow. That's really what it comes down to. So his job today is to preserve his equipment, make sure he takes the green flag tomorrow, and can do that in a position where he can't be overhauled on the racetrack.
Really impressive for that 991 to be that far up the field.
Yeah.
He's done that all season long, to be honest. He's been mixing it up with a lot of the 992s, and it's been a testament to the speed that Niels has shown consistently. Curious to see if maybe next season he'll switch over to the new machinery and see how he does kind of with equal equipment to a lot of those around him.
Well, we get a little preview of that when he runs in the Endurance Series later on in the weekend. We saw him at Road America driving with John Gilliland in one of the 992 cars, so he's got some experience with it. I do wonder how difficult that would be, jumping back and forth between the two cars. They're similar enough that maybe the small differences almost become exaggerated a little bit. Does that make any sense, Eric?
Yeah, the way that you would drive these cars and how they drive and react to your inputs are truly different. But the 991's been around long enough. It sounds like he's been in the car a long enough time. And ultimately, it's still a 911, right? Rearward engine, and I think it wouldn't be that difficult of a challenge. He seems to be doing a pretty good job in this 991.
Definitely.
He swings down through turn 5. Kind of on his lonesome right now, though. Doesn't really have any other cars, no matter what class, surrounding him, which means he's taken off from Tony Melito by a bit, showing at about 3 seconds difference last time across the line.
But Melito was faster on the last lap by about 0.7 of a second, so that gap could come down quickly if that does continue.
And again, this is where you just want to drive reference point to reference point. If you're both of these drivers, it's a little bit more of the burden for Melito to try to get to Niels, because he's got to work a lot harder. He's got to overheat the tires potentially to try to get to him. A caution would help him. But this is where, if you're Niels, again, you just want to focus forward, hit your marks, make the other driver behind you have to worry about working harder to get to you.
For some reason, Ashley Freiberg is falling down the order and now in 7th. And I'm trying to see if I can spot what has happened to her. Something must have happened on that last lap, because now she is behind Scott Blend, and Caden Kelly has taken over the lead. So we missed a pass there for the top spot in Masters. I'm not sure if this is all related to one another, though.
I can tell you that whatever befell Ashley, it was in the final sector. She was about 10 seconds slower than the other cars through that final sector. It does not appear on timing and scoring that Kelly or Blend were particularly slow in that sector, so I'm going to guess that it was unrelated based on those data points. But big pass there from Kelly, doing a nice job to get to the lead on his debut weekend of the season. We've seen him, of course, in the past, but great to have Caden back in the paddock here this weekend at Sonoma.
Yeah, again, looking at the lead here, Paul Bocuse is really doing a great job. As we know, he's looking for his first win of the season. With MDK, veteran outfit, they know what they're doing, led by Jeff Abel, who does a really fantastic job of putting all these programs together. Paul is really just trying again. He's just trying to drive reference point to reference point. This is a point in the race where you've got 16 and change left. You don't want to make mistakes. But you look at the timesheets. Best lap 139.0, last lap 139.3. I think he's doing a great job of exactly everything he needs to do.
Yeah, I think Paul is looking better and better about maybe finally breaking that duck and getting himself his first win of the season, his first ever win in a Cup car as well. And that could be a huge bit of celebration for him. Off screen, I saw a bit of action coming down into the chicane farther down in the field. I think that was with Kyle Washington and a few others having to make room in through there. I love that we're seeing so much battling up and down throughout.
It's good to see. I did want to give an update on the Masters points battle. We talked about the penalty that hit Mark Bowden, and he has lost a few laps. He spent some time in the pits and now is being shown about 7 laps complete, and that's a few laps off of the leader. Meissner, in the meantime, has come to the pit lane. This is a development in the 991 class.
Wow, this is a real shame. Again, now that he started the race, he will earn the points no matter what, so third at worst. But I have to imagine that he wants to try and finish the race. The team is not really looking like they're scrambling around the car, so whatever it is, they don't seem to think that they need to be in a hurry to fix it.
Well, and remember, the thing that could cost him a title is not starting one of these races. So that's what the team's got to be thinking about. Don't cause any damage today. That will prevent you from starting the race tomorrow. There are not enough cars in the class to be overhauled, for him to be overhauled tomorrow, no matter where he finishes, so long as he takes the green flag. That's got to be the focus there.
One thing I wanted to touch on as we continue to watch from on board with Jean Song here in P2, Freiburg dropping down actually affects another battle because Therese Lalu, we mentioned, is trying to chase Conrad Geis. Conrad gets a position because of that, so that's more points away that Therese will now become by the end of this race if they finish as is. But continue to watch this battle for the lead. It seems like either Aaron has backed off Eric or Paul has picked it up, because while it still remains at about a second apart, it's not as close as it was earlier in the race.
Yeah, you look back in the last couple of laps, I think Aaron has been consistent, but it looks like Paul has been a bit more consistent. Again, hard to say exactly who's working the car harder right now because, again, 14 and change, there's still plenty of time. If you had a full course caution, you'd want to have some life left in these Yokohamas to be able to fight with. But that's the gamble that you take. At this point, are you wanting to pull away, establish your lead, run a safe, consistent pace all the way until the end, or do you want to push to try to get to that first place position? But again, if we have a caution, potentially not have enough grip left in these tires. So I think it's really seemingly in Paul Bogusa's hands, but again, he's got to run reference point to reference point, just be consistent, and I think this could be his.
I'm just getting a message. Incident with car 222 is under review. I'm trying to make out who that is. That would be Ashley Freiberg.
Ah, yeah, that helps to explain why she dropped down the order. It just says incident with that one car, though.
Yeah.
It doesn't really paint a big picture.
I mean, that is a little bit strange, honestly, because usually they have 2 cars listed or more if it needs to be under review. So not sure why a single car is being reviewed and for what. We'll try and keep you up to speed once we get information on that one. This is a great little battle, though, in the mid-pack here.
Yeah, we've got Frank Vitello in the red car up front. He has been a Porsche Sprint Challenge driver since the inception of the North American Series. Very good guy. Met him at a private racetrack that he was a member of in New York, and he, again, works with JDX, fantastic outfit. Works with Mike Zemicki, who is a veteran in motorsports, fantastic coach, and has really brought Frank a long way.
He's having a ton of fun right now, I suspect. Has this great battle to be a part of. Best finish on the season, a pair of 6ths back at Barber Motorsports Park in April. This track has some similarities to Barber, so maybe not a surprise to see him going well here at Sonoma.
Yeah, it does. It's got all the elevation change. It's not the largest footprint that we see as we see a pass coming up. Nice job.
I think that was Mim that just snuck through there.
That was, yeah, well timed.
He was trying to get in the mix for some time. Definitely took advantage of the driver ahead Manship, I think it was, that was trying to see if he could do anything on Vitello, but his distraction proved to be maybe just a little bit too much for him as, he might lose another spot in a big hop over the curb from John McInnes.
Yeah, that was some impressive airtime. I don't think he meant to do that, but he thought there was a move. The door seemed to be closing, and he thought better of it right at the end, so that was good.
Update on the Meissner situation from our buddy Jeremy with PM&A. Radiator damage, evidently, is the culprit. He was involved in that contact at the start, was Meissner, and that's what's brought him to the pit lane. I mean, the good news is that is repairable. That's not something that could cost him a run tomorrow, as long as they got it to the pits before that engine got too much heat due to the damaged radiator.
Ooh, things are heating up between Vitiello and Mim now. Mim around the outside, but if he can hold on to this, he could have the inside coming into the first corner, but it looks like he won't need it anyways. He is fully passed and takes the position now behind once again. A little bit offline from Vitiello from that battle, and now he finds the pressure is relentless.
Really nice job by Mike Mim. A lot of confidence to make that stick as we see Frank under pressure, under attack by the drivers behind, eagerly looking to get by.
And John Manship next in line. Mark Bowden next in line behind him. Boy, oh boy, what a fight this is.
I thought we were about to see an accident. He sent it down the inside. He got one and just about made it two accidentally, but braked just in time to keep that from becoming a T-bone. So now he refocuses. Clearly there is speed there. Can he get by Vitiello coming up into the braking for the hairpin? He seems to think so as he looks down to the inside, but he's a little too far back.
A little too far back, but he gets Frank just off the apex, and we see a little bit of overlap. He's trying to stick a nose in. Frank gives him the line. Nice driving.
So that's Bowden up a couple more positions there in the 2.46. This is his recovery drive after that drive-through early in the race. I had feared he had lost a lap, but I don't think that's actually the case. I think I misread timing and scoring there. So this is big for him. With each pass, he gets that much closer to keep this battle alive for the championship in Masters into the finale tomorrow.
That has got to be such a precarious place to be in inside the cockpit, Eric, because now suddenly you've got the red mist down, and you know you have to race hard and make those moves, but you still have to be smart about it.
Yeah, certainly. There's a couple of big brake zones that we have here, but otherwise, if you get stuck behind a car and with eight and so minutes left, that frustration can build up, and so you're going to see potentially a little bit of the patience start to go away with some of these drivers, but everybody has been controlled and done a nice job. As we see off camera up front, Bocuse and the Johnson battle is ensuing. Johnson looks a little bit closer, so let's see what happens with these final few laps remaining.
Yeah, now we get some pictures of that one, 0.7 of a second last time across at the line. They're coming up to that marker now, so let's see if that cuts down at all as they cross. It certainly looks a little bit closer. It's about a tenth different as Janson was slightly faster that last lap. Boy, they have absolutely dropped Jared Thomas, though, because we are having to wait now, looks like 9.5 seconds for him to come by.
Just in the picture up ahead, lap traffic. This is going to make things very interesting for these two drivers battling for this win.
Can Paul manage to slice his way through there? 8 minutes plus a lap left to go on the clock, and Aaron is starting to turn the screws a little bit on him and try and see if he can get closer, get him to make a mistake, or maybe even open an opportunity as he takes a shallower line coming down through the carousel.
This is where it gets tricky. They know that they're leading up to lap traffic. They're closer than we've seen in many laps past. You can see Paul flashing the lights. You've got these two cars up ahead that are in their own battle, that are trying to worry about their race. Nice job by that fall line car to let them go.
That's Thomas Herb that allows them through. And then going by, I think that's Ammon once again. Looks like they're able to sneak by into the S's, which is never a fun place to try and have that happen. He keeps them at arm's length, does Paul Bocuse, as Janson can't seem to get himself a chance to try and make a pass. He's definitely making sure that he is there should something happen, but he's got to get a little tighter, that rear bumper.
And the good news for Paul is the next batch of traffic is heading up the hill in turn 2 right now, so that it's not like they're going to catch them anytime soon with 7 minutes and 1 lap remaining in this race. So this could be a relatively clear run to the checkers, which I would think is what Paul Bocuse would be hoping for at this stage. And on the opposite side of the spectrum, Aaron Janson, who also is looking for his first win in the series. I think he would love to see a little bit of traffic to maybe open the door for him to make the pass and take the lead of this race.
Who can be more perfect? The mental fortitude it's going to take for Paul Bocuse just to focus forward, not let himself fall under pressure. On the opposite of Johnson, trying to apply the pressure as much as he can, trying to get in the mirrors of Paul Bocuse, trying to just get him a little bit off the line wherever he can. It's going to be important for each one of these drivers with much different approaches.
Update on the Masters point situation with Bowden coming through the field. He now runs in I think the 6th place in class. I've got him now points as they run 36 points adrift, which is a lot better than the 50-some, we were 54, I think, we were talking about a little bit early on. So the combination of his recovery as well as Scott Blind losing the lead of his class to Caden Kelly has brought him that much closer and keeps him in the conversation heading into the finale tomorrow.
Even if he can't come home with a championship, I feel like Bowden has represented himself well in this race, dealt with the adversity and responded. But I guess at the end of the day, they all want that championship. Doesn't matter even if you manage to have a good recovery drive. We've got this battle for the lead we've been following between Bocuse and Janson, but it's hit a bit of a stalemate once again as he can't seem to get onto the attack with our 2nd place in the points.
Johnson falling away a little bit as we see that battle back with Vitello. This is where things are going to heat up. Maybe that patience starts to go out the window a little bit.
Going to be able to get to the inside there, but can't quite get past as the two here still fighting for the mid-pack positions head into the carousel. Poking back and forth, trying to find an opening, and almost gets down to the inside on the late apex of that left-hander.
It's John Manship who's taking the peak here. He's having a really good day, actually. He's only finished in the top 10 on a couple of occasions this season in class, but great job right there. Finally able to make the move work.
Braking extremely deep into the hairpin, that gets the job done, and Manship is through. That's going to put him into 15th overall as well in this race. So he sets off, but unfortunately for him, next car up the line looks to be quite a long ways away, as you can see from our overhead shots.
Nice job with that pass. Very controlled, which is not an easy thing to do considering where he was on the racetrack. The dirty part of it, as we see again out of picture, that could soon be in picture, is the battle for the overall lead, as they actually are getting closer and closer to the battle on the picture as we see a little bit of contact. This is again where we see the patients start to leave the room.
I think that was McInnes going up the inside there, and he was in a hurry to try and get by. And that may have been, is that Bowden behind him?
Let's see. I don't think so.
I wasn't sure.
Because Bowden got clear of this group. He's running a little bit further ahead, trying to catch Mike Mim, and more importantly for Mark, trying to catch Kyle Washington for the next spot in class. Yeah, I do think it could have been another fall line car.
So that may be a lapped car. We've returned to the battle for P1. There's another bit of lap traffic starting to show in front of them. They look likely to catch it before the race is over, as we're 3 minutes plus 1 lap to go. The question is, will it play a factor in this?
Yeah, just enough time for these two guys up front with the traffic ahead to make things potentially a little bit more interesting for us. We'll see.
For Aaron Johnson, he's from Louisiana originally, but now calls San Francisco home, so this becomes the adopted home racetrack. Runner-up in MX5 Cup last year. He won the MX5 shootout back in 2020. Came through Jeremy Shaw's Team USA scholarship program, went over and did those big Formula Ford races, the Walter Hayes Trophy and the Formula Ford Festival over in the UK. A lot of talent.
Well, this is the opportunity. Janson manages to get the run off the corner. Paul
Closer than
knows
he's
it.
ever been. Looking like he's trying to go down the inside. Let's see.
He tried to close the door, but it was a little bit too late. Down to the apex first for Janson, and he's going to sneak through. Paul Bocuse has lost the lead for the first time since the start of this event. But what can Aaron do from here? He's still got a couple laps to go. He's got to try and run away.
Wow. We thought the traffic could have a part to play, and it still might. It's not done yet, to your point, Joe, but what a move that was. Opportunistic. He saw the door open, And Bocuse, give him credit, he wasn't going to do anything dangerous trying to defend there, and ultimately was forced to leave the door open. Johnson needed no second invitation.
Saw the opportunity and he took it, and that was through 9 and 9A, as we see Johnson potentially now getting held up by traffic himself. He's able to clear it. It was just enough to give him the opportunity, again, as we were talking about, out of 9A, where it just it wasn't good for him to put the power down. I'm sorry, Bocuse. Johnson was able to make it work as he was able to just make the line a little bit wider into 10, crossover, and Bocuse just didn't really even have an option but to give it up to him.
And despite that little bit of traffic heading into the carousel, he still looks like he is gapping Paul Bocuse. I wonder if Aaron was being held up for the majority of this race and there was more underneath that orange machine. It's not a huge margin, but considering we're going to be getting the 2 to go signal this time by, it's not looking good for Paul. He's going to have to get up on the wheel.
Could be a big day for Aaron Johnson, 26 years old, originally from Sulphur, Louisiana. Spent a lot of time and effort just trying to keep his career on life support, like so many drivers. A lot of talent, not a lot of opportunity. In fact, spent a lot of the pandemic, as I understand it, as a DoorDash delivery guy. Imagine they're not going to show up late when he's the one bringing your food to you, right?
15 minutes or less, I
suppose. That's right.
But right now, he's getting to drive maybe a little bit faster for this one. Paul's starting to try and bring him back in as the clock hits 0. Next time by, they will get the white flag for 1 to go. But once again, there is that traffic. What's going to happen this time by? Can Paul get his revenge?
Yeah, you can see Johnson coming down the front straightaway, flashing his lights. He is desperate to get around these lap cars. He doesn't want what happened for him and the opportunistic aspect to happen for Paul. He just really wants to get around, and as we see, lap car up ahead, very gentlemanly, lets him go, doesn't affect the lead race.
I have a feeling Paul is tired of being Mr. Second Place. Not only did he have so many last season, but this season 7 second places and never a win. And it's looking like it might be 8 unless he can do something in about a lap and a half. They're coming down into the braking zone, and it does look like, I think they have Manship next up in front, and I think they're going to catch him before this race is over.
Definitely going to catch him before this race is over. Down into the hairpin here, but Johnson's built a nice gap. He can afford to be a bit more patient now.
And this is where earlier when we were talking about tire life and what you were doing for your tires and how you were helping yourself, this is where maybe Johnson was potentially able to conserve a little bit of that tire life, and now he's really ready to let it unleash as we see the white flag.
White flag, and also flashing the headlights as he wants to the inside. Manship says, there you go. Going to let you through. There's a little bit of a holdup, but not enough to be an issue. Oh, is he going to play ball with Paul? He is not, and holds him up through 3A and 3.
Yeah, interesting choices by Manship there. Now he lets him go. It's been a really good job by a lot of these drivers to be heads up, knowing what's behind them. I'm sure they're getting the information from either a coach or somebody who's on the timing stand of just letting them know that that's the leader of the race and the fight for the lead of the race. That's never something that you want to do, which is to purposely hold anybody up. I'm not saying that's what he did, but you know, everybody here has done a very good job of just being heads up and not getting involved in this race.
Coming around the hairpin for the final time and heading back through the S's. That gap has visibly increased between Johnson and Bocuse. So for here, all the way to the finish, the 250 just has to keep it together and hit his marks, and he is home free to take his first win of the season and only his 3rd attempt here in the Porsche Sprint Challenge North America Series. The GT3 Cup is a difficult one to take a victory, as we've seen this season. And for Aaron Johnson, he doesn't have to worry about that one anymore, because as he exits the final couple corners, he is going to take the checkered flag and the win for race 1 at Sonoma.
Fantastic drive, opportunistic to take the lead when he did. Now we wait for Caden Kelly to come across the line. Here he comes to the stripe, and Caden Kelly is your winner in the Masters class in his first race of the season. Scott Blind looks to be holding down a strong second place. That should put him in the catbird seat with just one race to run.
They're waiting on Tony Melito, who has been leading for part of this race, had to inherit it a little bit off of Meissner. But while we look for him to come to the line, he is going to be thrilled with this one in the Fall Line Motorsports number 127.
Boy, if you cut this race in half and you looked at the first half of it, you never would have thought that it would have ended the way that it did. It was exciting all the way through.
And I mean, that's why we watch motorsport, because you just don't know what's going to happen. You think it might be all wrapped up, but it is not over until the checkered flag. So they'll cross the line, and I think we may have had that 127 already across. So we can officially call Tony Melito the winner for this one. With that, I'll hand things over to Ryan for a second before we get to the podium ceremonies. But man, we had a stunner today.
Sure did. That was really fun and exciting to see the way that it played out to the end. A couple of championship contenders in the various classes had some misfortune. Meissner with that radiator damage. It looked like he had the championship on lockdown. There's a little bit more jeopardy still in play there. And then the Mark Bowden contact on that first lap that I understand had a part to play in the melee we saw that brought out the yellow at the beginning of the race. He dropped back, did a good job to recover, but you do have to wonder what might have been. He's got a lot of work to do tomorrow if he's going to supplant Scott Blind at the lead for the lead of the Masters Championship. And we should say that by starting the race here today, Jared Thomas did clinch the championship in the 992 Pro-Am class, so congratulations to Jared. One of the few races this season he has not won. In fact, only the third one that he has not won all year long, but he still has something to celebrate with a podium and a championship clinched, at least provisionally, based on the results of today's race. Eric Filgaris joined us for this one. Eric, of course, the reigning GT World Challenge America Pro Class champion. He's in the midst of a championship battle right now in GT4 America in a beautiful Porsche Cayman, we should mention. And you've got a championship to go out and win next weekend in Indianapolis.
Yeah, thanks so much. Congrats to Jared Thomas on his championship. We see a fresh face at the top of the podium here. A lot of really good fights. This has been a fight for me for this year with my teammate JCD and back with RS1. Third year potentially fighting for a championship in a Porsche, which is very exciting. It's all going to come down to the wire next weekend, as we've seen a couple of these championship fights come down to the wire this weekend. So just excited to have this opportunity as always. And thanks for having me today. This was a lot of fun to call. It's
our pleasure. And of course, your student, if you will, Tom Kopczynski, will be racing a little bit later on today. What is the outlook for Tom here at Sonoma?
Yeah, it's his first time here, and as we talked about, it's kind of similar to Barber in the way that it drives. There's a lot of flow to it, a lot of elevation change. Some of the areas of the track where it gets light, you're really looking for really fine reference points, and so for him it's just consistency, making it through the weekend cleanly, and moving on to the next as he learns this track he's never been to before here. So happy to give him the guidance and always excited to work together. I will be in the Endurance Challenge race tomorrow. I'm really looking forward to that. A lot of really cool names that I get to compete against and have a little fun.
That should be a great time. We've always joked that if you could ever throw the coaches in this paddock into a race together, we'd have a show for you folks, and we'll get to see that later on this weekend in the Porsche Endurance Challenge North America race. The second to last one of the season. We've got a big 6-hour coming up in November. That should be a ton of fun at Circuit of the Americas. But for now, let's take a quick time out here at Sonoma Raceway, and when we come back, Joe Peak will have your podium festivities at the end of race 1 for Porsche Sprint Challenge North America 992 and 991. And time to go down to Joe Peak for the podium.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, time for our podium for the Porsche Sprint Challenge North America GT3 Cup. We're going to start off with the 991s, finishing P3 today in the number 152, Niels Meissner. Niels not able to be here, so we'll skip on over to second place in the number 161. Finishing second, it's Thomas Herb. And our winner today in the number 127, Tony Melito. Tony, congratulations. Obviously, it's going to be difficult to try and do anything about the championship, but is this at least a little compensation to go out on a high and know you have at least one win this weekend?
Yeah, sure, definitely. I mean, we wanted to come here and end the season on a high note. You know, it was the start of the race was pretty interesting. The left side of the track seemed to move a little bit better than the right, so Niels was able to get by me. I was trying to track him down. I'm not sure what happened to him. He pulled off. I was hoping we could have a little bit of a race out there, but yeah, we'll take it today. It was great.
How much is track position feeling like it's a critical part this weekend now that you've been in a race?
It's pretty critical. So qualifying, you know, I had a pretty good first lap, but my second lap wasn't as great. So Niels will start ahead of me tomorrow. So it'll be a little interesting to try to make that pass. But I want to say thank you to the Fall Line crew, especially the engineers Scott and Ryan, my driver coach. My dad's here also, so thanks for him being here. Same with my father-in-law Steve. So just glad to be out here and enjoying the weather today.
A beautiful day and a beautiful win for Tony Melito. Let's give it up one more time for our winners. Show off those trophies for the cameras. And of course, why don't we spray some champagne? Awesome job for Tony Melito in the number 127, taking victory in the 991 class. That takes us to the 992 Masters category, where we have a close fight for the championship. Finishing third today in the number 253, it's Rob Walker. Second today in the number 254, current championship leader, Scott Blend. And at the first time of asking, driving the number 288, one start, one win for Caden Kelly.